today's mission. Let's put this door in. I'm not into fine woodworking, but we're getting closer. The trim does take an element of awfulness away from it, I think. Honestly, a little bit of painter's caulk would clean up a lot of this, right? I've honestly been having a hard time dealing with, I don't know. This should be a really exciting time, but I've had a few things that just didn't really feel like they turned out as well as I hoped. This actually works. Nice close. That's actually dead on right now. Now, as the house settles, I'll have to adjust it probably, but right now, that's right on. When you get a pre-hung door, their idea of where it should be is a suggestion, so I was off by about 1/8 of an inch or something. Takes a little bit of a push against the seal. Dead bolt. And I got windows. Screens. Oh, you can't see the screen. There you go. Screen. There. They actually lock. I don't know if this is backwards or not, but I'm going to build this up in kind of sections. So the first thing I wanted to do was see how thick the outer skin plus the 2x4 core plus the almost 3, well, it's 3-ply plywood, it's less than 1/2 inch. Okay, so that's going to be the inner skin, core, outer skin for the siding. So I'm just using a scrap to measure. So I came up with a number on that. Then we'll go off into the bright sunlight. This is my outfeed. So I'm going to make the threshold first. So the threshold will sit like this. This is the inner side and the outer side. So I'm going to cut a profile into it. So I'm set up now. I'm going to cut this short line here, and then I'm going to tilt the blade and do this long cut and cut a wedge out. So this will be the inside and this will be the outside. So when the door closes, it'll kind of get pushed up if it's low until it seals up against here. And then I can put like a weather stripping on here. I'm not going to put a bottom wipe on the door. This is just going to be, it's hopefully simple, but never is actually simple. So that's going to be our first cut, like that. And then I'm going to set it up for this one and cut it. So I'm just kind of, I'm doing this just to keep track of how I did it in case I want to do it again. I wasn't entirely sure I could do that right. That's a freaking threshold, man. Hell yeah! Woo! Build this up in sections, right? So that I get one thing done, and then use it to measure the next thing. That's gonna go like that. Yeah, that's awesome. Last thing I'm looking at, I want to have, so I've got a lip that the door is going to close against. And then I'm going to have duplicate this thing, this size, this piece. It's going to go up, and that's the other half of what the door closes against. Because the door is going to be here, I want rain to run off of this, so I'm going to put a bevel cut on this, cutting away from it just a little bit. It's just go like this, get it even with something, just like that. It's got just a little bit of a slope here, so any water should run away. I mean, it'll help with this. So we got this glued, let's get it flopped over. This piece is a lot bigger than it needs to be. Like normally it would be half of that probably. But I'm like, all right, I wasted a 2x4 to make it. Why not make it big? Because here's the trick. I know that my door is a little bit imprecise in here somewhere. And you can't see my finger because I'm right into the sun. And also my weather stripping is about 1 inch wide. I think it's either 1 inch or 3/4. So why not just make this big and then be done with it? Now, why is there house wrap on this side and not on this side, you may ask? Rightfully so. I ran out of house wrap right there at that post. You can kind of see the white sticking out. I have another roll of house wrap. It's 150 feet long. I think it cost me $175. I'm 6 feet from there, and I'm about 7-8 feet from here, right? I'm taking that roll back and getting my $175 back. It's pretty stretch. So I got 2 workbenches, one that's sitting outside and one that's sitting up in the office right now, so let me clear that out. But this will be the first official clip of something built in the shop. I built something in the house earlier. All of the trusses were built in the kitchen, so that doesn't count. Also, there was no roof then. Yeah, okay. Might as well have fun with it, right? The joke in woodworking is the one with the most clamps wins. And they were under a tarp with probably a pile of OSB, I think. And we had a typical, Texas windstorm. And I looked out the next day and the tarp was half flopped over and all of my styrofoam was gone. And I'm like, where, I knew the direction the wind was probably, going west. That's about all I had to go on. And I looked, I've got a fence line on my property. It's maybe 100 yards behind the house here now. Okay. I looked at the fence line. No, there's no styrofoam there. So I'm like, okay, great. It went over the fence line, which means, hello, California, look for my styrofoam. And I think this was still when I was building the shop, maybe. I had to get up on the roof of the bus or something. Probably I was taking the rain gutters off that were going to be in the way. Something like that. And so from on top of the bus, looking west, I was kind of thinking, yeah, it might be out there. I might be able to see it. So sure enough, I could see a little bit of pink. So I kind of looked at the hills beyond and got a frame of reference. And then when I was done on the roof of the bus, I went walking. And at first I found one piece. And just as I was getting to that piece, I kind of was scanning. Sure enough, I see the next piece. And get to that piece, and I found the last piece, and I wasn't actually sure how much I had. Now what I'm doing here, I'm digging out thorns and pieces of bushes, because these things just pummeled themselves, as they went. I mean, they cleared the fence, regular cow fence, and then ended up, I gotta think, the furthest one was 1/4 mile away, right? And they are mostly intact. Now, I don't really remember if there was more than basically 3 halves, because if you've ever worked with this, there's score lines, so 16 inches and 8 inches, and then 8 inches, and then 16 inches. So they got them pre-marked, so you can just snap them and break them off, right? So if you're working with common dimensions, that works out pretty well. So this is a half a sheet here. So anyway, long story longer, right? I was just ecstatic when I found these and I think there was another part of a sheet that I used up somewhere. I remember using up a smaller piece for something. But I'm like, okay, this is, I think they're 20 bucks a sheet. You know, so not the end of the world, but it was a pretty good day when I looked out and I found them. I'm like, yes! That was a good day. You don't have to cut all the way through, just give it a, you're just scoring it. You're making a line. Get this out of the way. Slide it out over the end so that the line is even with the edge. And that's it. You're done, right? That's pretty easy. Not planned, not at all planned. What I'm looking at is one of the pre-made score lines, which is what, 16 inches, right? Yeah, there's a 16-inch line. It looks like it's going to be right on where I want it to be. So this is kind of tore up. That's a good one to get rid of. And that's kind of what I'm looking at here is that piece is broken too. I might use that one. Let's get rid of the worst one. Because this is just going to be sitting inside the door here, you know, taking up airspace is really all it's got to do. Alright, so that just, you know, popped right on the line. Okay, so I'm cutting about halfway through, not really all the way through. So I'm going to put the line kind of on the edge of the door, so it's got a braking surface, right? Just like that. Nothing good. Yeah, you know, it's like, yes, you could use practically any tool to do this, but the knife works really well. There you go, nice easy fit, right? I don't remember ever looking this up, if construction glue, wood glue really works well with styrofoam or not. But when I was doing the bus windows, it did actually seem to work pretty well. Now since this was tight, I'm going to flex it up a little bit and get the edge in first. There, that worked pretty good. So. I personally have scoffed a lot of people, redneck community and whatnot, who hang on to all their old tires. I don't laugh as much anymore. They're actually pretty useful. And really, they are multi-useful. Anytime the wind blows, if I got a tarp, it'll have a tire on it. It just seems like a good idea. Nicely weighted down, that'll keep it nice and flat. You know, it's the funniest thing, but when I look down at that piece, I see a threshold. It just looks like it belongs there. And then I stop and I'm like, wait, I made that piece. That bottom piece is 1 2x4. I dreamed of buying a table saw for years. I used to have one a long time ago, and since then I've never lived in a place where I could have one. And that was one of the things, you know, when I look out there, I'm like, yeah, this is why, really, I wanted to live in a place like this where I could do something like this, just to have the tools that I need to do things. So when I look at a piece like that, that would be, for me, impossible to make any other way, unless I had a CNC or something retarded like that. Don't get me wrong, give me a CNC, I'm all for it. But there are things you can do with a table saw that you just really can't do any other way. So far, I'm pretty happy with the progress though. And I still got styrofoam left over. I would totally take sponsorship from those guys. That would be cool. Just for the Pink Panther. As a kid growing up, that was the coolest thing ever. I had no idea what any of it was. I just thought the Pink Panther was cool. You know, it's the funniest thing is I don't know if it's on purpose, but I've been walking around through the back door, probably because I was working back there. But now this is the house. This has the door. I'm not walking through the door. I think I'm just like, well, I don't want to wear it out or something. I don't know. Yesterday I went through it about 1,000 times just because I could. Now I'm like, oh, this is the house door. I shouldn't go through this. No, it's my house. I can go through it. It just feels funny to. I'm actually talking quieter in here. I've never had a door of my own before. It's starting to sink in. That's kind of a funny thing. The next day, whatever the next day is, oh, it's the 1st. 1st of July. 1st of July. Canada Day. Used to be Dominion Day, I think, or something like that. Sort of the Canadian version of the 4th of July, only we're not officially separated from the British Commonwealth. We're not traitors. Also, my mom's anniversary. So happy anniversary, Mom. This will probably be released in a month or 2 from now, but thinking about you anyway. Cool. All right, so on with the program here. Let's get rid of the tires. And this one is the Tight Bond 2 this time. Premium wood glue for interior or exterior. I guess the red label one is interior only. That's flowing much better than yesterday so far. Not exactly precise, but I find if you just have your fingers on both sides, you can feel the gap and know if you're pretty close. As nice as this is, it's still a shop door. I'm trying to. 18. Clamping these, putting the clamps up on the door jamb for now. Yeah, that'll show. I'm just curious how rigid this is going to be. Oh, that feels good. I'm picking up one corner and I don't see that it's twisting. That's kind of the test is, that feels very door-like. Yeah, honestly, I had no idea if this was going to work at all. Really. I mean, it seemed like it should work. There we go. That's not bad. Ta-da! That's the door. The door shut. But we're good. I learned this in shop class back in about 1983. Mr. Howe. I bet he doesn't remember this trick. No, I'm sure he does, but he doesn't remember teaching me. When something is whacked, you take a straight edge, lay it on the one surface. That one's not thick enough. cut that much off, but that would give me a reference. That's pretty much all we need. So I can draw a line. Basically, this line is now parallel to the floor that I'm trying to match. So I'm going to do that. Now I don't need to cut that much off. I want to cut off literally the smallest amount possible. So basically, if I do a parallel line right to the edge here, okay, I think we're good there. It would also be helpful if I could hit the same spot every time. If you're not... I've lifted it a little bit too high because I've got that gap. Okay, so I should lower it a little bit. It's not quite consistent. That's not a surprise. But because these are, this is the thing. I purposely made these bigger than I should, so I'd have lots of ceiling area. So look at how good that looks all the way around. It's actually really close, and I haven't pushed it yet. Okay, so but I need to be thinking, how thick is my weather stripping? Right, what I've got is 3/8 of an inch. So I want this to be a little bit tight so that when I close it, I have to push it a little bit to latch it, and then it'll give me a nice seal. Man, how cool is that? That just, you know, it looks like it belongs. That's kind of cool. Now I didn't give one thought, and I could have. I didn't really think about it. I could have tried to line up those lines with the siding. Okay, I'm not sure if this is kosher or not, but it seems like it'll work. So start off with the hinge closed, pin on top, open it out, set it in the corner, hold it flush against both edges. This will make it square to the edge, because it can't, you know, it can't sit out. I think that could work. So I drew a line around it and I marked the holes. This one, if I just lift it up a little bit, so I'm going to lift the door up, it'll hit that one. Lift the door up, actually not on that one. That one's pretty close. That means this one's probably a little bit off. So I'll keep an eye on that. Okay, it's about 20 after 3. It's freaking hot on this side. So, mistakes have been made. Anyway, there's a whole gaggle of holes that are in the wrong spot now. Some of these I flipped the hinge over to offset the hole. Some of them I just moved them to a new spot. So with that said, I had to redo it, like start over. Dude. Okay, that might be all right. Shit, that swings nice. Can flex the whole wall, but the hinge seems like it's doing okay. That's not quite perfectly straight, but considering the trouble I had on the front door, this is not any worse than the pre-hung door was at this stage. So really the biggest problem I was dealing with is I completely put the door too low by about 1/4 of an inch. it started, this hole has to be straight in as much as you can now. And basically, you're looking to make sure that the angle looks about the same. Okay, now that you got it started, the drill will stay there. So now you can spot it. You know, if you had somebody spotting for you, okay, I'm actually going a little bit crooked, so now I want to adjust a little bit. Yeah, and with that little adjustment, I'm pretty close now. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty close. Better than I was by eye. Now, the idea of doing a hole all the way through with this is this isn't going to go all the way through. So I'm going to be stuck. So I can start from one side and then hit it from the other side because I've already got the hole in there. That's kind of the idea. And that is not the good battery. Alright, I'm going to drill from the back side now. Alright. When it first hits the wood, you can tell if you're level or not by if it's hitting both sides at the same time. And I'm just trying to sight down the door to go straight. Okay. The back side is plywood. I want to take off a layer or two. I'm not super precise about this right now. And then whatever I figure out works here, I'll do it again for the second hole. And I'll probably just extend whatever this correction is all the way down. Two plies, that's kind of what I was hoping for. That's actually not bad. Now what I'm not doing is cutting into the front layer. So if I need it, I can take off one more layer on this side. Okay, I had to go through the entire layer of plywood to get this to work. But it's on there now. Screws are long enough when you do that. I'm going to just snug it up a little bit now. Okay, I can honestly say that took a little longer than I thought, but it did work. I was able to do a round cutout around this door handle. Makes it look a little nicer. Yeah, whatever, right? Not quite perfect on the alignment, pretty close. And the wind is blowing, so I push it, close is good. I'm a little bit off on the deadbolt, so I can get the deadbolt. It's close, it's really close.